The web is this home for collaboration, for sharing, for allowing information to be free, for people being able to create things together in open platforms and sharing ideas. And that's embedded in the kind of geek hippie culture of the homebrew computer.
Even people who have, like me, who started off without the web and now use it, work differently. I think the web's about a lot of things. The web is humanity connected.
The internet itself reflects a hostility towards authority. So the internet is an edge technology. It has no center. It's no coincidence then that it reflects the ideology of the people who invented it, the people who drove it.
We want to make certain that anybody who's got something to say can say it, and anybody who wants to listen can hear, and anybody who doesn't want to listen can tune them out, which is an essential quality of freedom of expression, is the right not to listen.
The internet era has created a shift in the way people approach socializing. The mere idea of a community has transformed into a term with the subconscious prefix of virtual. But how has this changed? What has it become? What kind of effects will it have on people? Is it really for the better, or is the internet a tool allowing for the manipulation and control of belief, of human relationships, of simple knowledge?
You know, you don't have to control people much if you can control what they believe, and you can control what they believe if you control what they have access to. If you can control what they can know, the rest of it is a very simple matter.
But the internet is an open space for anybody to access. Limitless possibilities of exploration, chances for people to go out and find their own answers.
And we just think, you know, the human mind has its limitations, but we just think that humans are more likely to achieve their ultimate purpose, whatever that may be, if they have the capacity to completely explore the possibility space of what can be known.
Now this is all fair, but has the use of the internet changed the way we engage in conversation and hindered our approach to human relationships?
If you imagine search as the opening salvo of a dialogue, you know, and I say to the machine, right, which I increasingly don't see as a machine. I see it as an intelligent agent or something.
Social technology is going to have a massive impact in terms of how people organize politically, what they do economically, and how they express themselves as being unique individuals in a social way. Social technologies are reflective of human nature, whether it's, you know, connecting you to the people that you know or connecting you to people around the things that you care about. And when you look at it in that context, everything that people are doing in terms of learning how to connect with other people online is towards a common goal. So whether that common goal is sharing news articles for fun, or, you know, entertaining themselves by listening to amazing music in the context of a artist fan site or an artist website or a MySpace page or a Facebook fan page, all of those skills can actually be used for anything.
Older generations were used to specific social skills, ones that helped enhance conversations and community interactions face to face. This has severely changed over the last decade, even more so in the current pandemic. People are, you could even say, forced into adapting to online communities, virtual communities. Is this the future? Do they require a change in social skill set? Could this be an adaptation that takes away our human nature?
What is a virtual community, Howard?
Well, when I came up with the term, it was 1987, and the emphasis was really on community rather than the virtual part, because people were asking me whether anyone besides some kind of maybe anti-social electrical engineer would be interested in using computers to communicate with people. And I was very excited because what I had discovered in bulletin board systems and and ultimately the well were real people who became part of my life. In fact, babysat for my daughter. I was at their weddings. I went to their funerals. I sat by their deathbeds. Anything that you do in a real community was happening with this group of people, and I wanted to get the word out that even though we met through computers, we're real people and our relationships are real.
People are hungry for community. They're hungry for meaning in a society that is oriented around the production and consumption of consumer goods. Buy more stuff. I mean, it doesn't make people happy. I know this sounds like a gross oversimplification, and in some ways it is. But when there's an alternative to be able to reach out and to find kindred spirits who have common interests or share a common perspective on life and to feel fulfilled by that, people will do that even if it is a somewhat low resolution version of reality. And I would call a virtual world like a very low-res version of real reality. People are hungry for meaning, hungry for contact.
In fact, the person you make a connection with might be on the other side of the world. The conversation starts immediately because we know that we share some things in common. So does it matter that you're Slovenian and I'm American? What matters is that we have this shared interest. And we had a shared culture. And that culture has really emerged from our use of digital technologies and our use of those technologies not only to connect with other people, but to create. So creativity, learning, connection, what's so wrong with that? Is that less real than the fact that my grandparents came from the same village that your grandparents did, or that we worship at the same church, or our skin is the same colors?
These virtual communities and new social capabilities are just one side to human relationships. There's also the disturbing, the uncivil, and the aggressive. Nevertheless, still an aspect of human relationships. Still an aspect of the human conscious.
If you spend any time in political discussions or any kind of lifestyle discussion on the web, forums and postings and so on, you could see that the conversation typically degenerates to a very uncivil level quickly.
But don't let this take away from the beautiful bonds created through online communities. Every interest you have, every little detail, there's always someone on the internet to grow with.
It's like a big community online with up-and-coming rappers, singers, musicians, producers, and if you can literally just bond with a lot of these people online.
These human relationships aren't just among people in the same field. The internet has allowed, and some would even say improved, connections between, in this case, musicians and their fans. Theo Jerome Kerlin, known by his stage name Master Shorty, highlights this evolution in his field perfectly.
On Twitter, every day. I'll Twitter in a second. I tweeted before I came here, tweeted. So I'm always tweeting and always, I try to reply to some of them. Obviously, sometimes I can't because some of them, they're just like, hello. And it's just like, if I say hello back, and that's like, but important questions and stuff like that and concerns that they may have at the time, I always reply back to them because it makes it that more personal and they'll remember it, you know what I mean? It's like it's like back in the day when people used to take pictures with somebody, if someone was nice and gave them their time, they'd always remember that moment, and I believe that they'd be their fan for longer and really support them. So that's what I'm trying to do.
This openness, which creates the ability to transform human relationships and conversations, should be approached with caution, as newer generations have picked up on. Privacy has become a major concern, and this too is a facet of an ever-changing social dynamic.
Every single time we go online, every time we look at a website, every time we send an email message, every time we make a phone call with our mobile telephones, we're exposing ourselves, we're stripping ourselves naked to the view of anybody who is interested to find out what we're doing.
Just like Barlow talked about control over the public in the internet era, Grayling does the same through the lens of online privacy.
All the information, much of the information that's involved there is very, very important to you personally. It's very valuable to you because you're able to manage it, able to present yourself to other people, able to keep new ideas which are still rather tender and not ready for scrutiny, growing until they're ready to be aired publicly. In all these ways, we've got this real need to have a wide margin of personal discretion around us. And if other people know what's going on in our thoughts and in our personal records and communications, they've invaded that margin and they've made it less easy for us to control our own lives.
But this foundational knowledge of human relationships, social skills, concerns over privacy, and how that shapes the way we approach online interactions, all these aspects are parts of a bigger picture. The real questions are, who is affected? How are they affected? To what extent are they more connected?
But as adults, we don't typically have a really good sense of all the kids and a good sense of where they are and what they're doing when they're with their friends. What's going on online is, in many ways, it's youth space. So they're there, they're goofing around as though they're there just with their friends. And so what ends up happening is you can get a sense of what's going on really in broad sweeps. And it isn't just the kids like the kids in your community, but the kids who are in different communities all around the world with all sorts of different ideas of what is normative behavior. Think about what happens when you were doing that with your friends, right? You were there, you were joking around, you were gossiping, you were flirting, you were kind of consuming culture and consuming merchandise, but it was part of this all-encompassing social experience. The same thing is actually happening fully online, right? And it's taking place online with the same kinds of friends that took place in the mall. Right? You met up with all the kids at school, but you also saw the kids at the neighboring school, and you're like, hey, who are you? What's that about? That same thing is where we're seeing it play out. So young people who are engaged online, they're primarily engaged with the people they already know. They're friends from school, they're friends from after-school activities, they're friends from around the community.
Going back to web natives, people who've only grown up knowing online, and it's sort of slightly answering one of the questions you've done again. Is this generation, are they going to be all right? Are the kids going to be doing okay, or should we?
Kids are all right. The kids are all right. No, I absolutely believe that the possibilities and the opportunities for people to live a rich, passionate life that allows them to express themselves in all the ways that they want to, regardless of where they live geographically. I don't think it gets any better than that.
Finding a community online, and this is one of the more powerful narratives of the internet, right? Your queer kids who can actually find people like them, who can support them. They're much more willing to be public in a traditional sense because they're desperate for somebody who might be like them.
The social web can do more good in the world than it can do bad. And it's the choice of people and the people who are using it as to what they want to do with it. It is the most empowering generational shift that has ever happened. And I think that that is what makes it so compelling and so inspiring and so much fun. In terms of what it can actually enable socially, economically, and politically, I think that we should embrace and welcome social technology, not fear it. And so it's up to people who use it to decide whether it is going to represent the best of human nature or the worst of human nature. And realistically, it's probably going to be a little bit of both. But what is possible today with social technologies is profound. No one is alone anymore. And I actually think that's a really powerful thing. You can sit at your house and make change. And we're talking about social change and political change and economic change in a way that was never possible before.
The web, I think, is a great levelling because the means of production to have your voice heard, to find an audience, to join in, have been hugely costly in the past. You've needed recording studios or television studios or printing presses. Now someone with an iPhone can post a video, make a podcast, connect to someone else. Anyone with the means of communication through a computer can have access potentially to a vast audience. In that sense, it has completely blown apart and levelled access to communications and collaboration. You can have your say and find your audience, find collaborators in ways that were never possible before. I think the best way to think about the web is that it's a huge unfolding social experiment in which we are both part of the experiment and conducting it.
The internet, to an extent, is what the people make it. We narrate our lives and shape the way we form communities, with who we form them and how strong they are. We hold a vast amount of power on the internet, which leads to stronger bonds but a strangely different social skill set, one that gives the idea of human relationships a malleable structure, a structure that will possibly change even more in the future, a reaction to the evolution of the internet. So I leave you with this, the same concept this entire documentary has been about.